Grand Duchess Anastasia Nikolaevna of Russia was born into the luxury of the Romanov dynasty, and she was the youngest daughter of Tsar Nicholas II and Tsarina Alexandra Fedorovna. As a child, Anastasia's life was one of privilege, surrounded by the splendour of Imperial Russia. Alongside her sisters Olga, Tatiana, Maria and a younger brother Alexei, she enjoyed the luxuries and education befitting royalty. However, the echoes of the revolution soon disrupted their serene existence. In 1918, amidst the chaos of the Russian Revolution, the Romanov family was brutally executed by Bolsheviks in Yekaterinburg, a dark moment that marked the end of Imperial Russia. The uncertainty surrounding Anastasia's fate persisted for decades, sparking countless rumours and myths about her escape. For years, the whereabouts of the Romanov remains were shrouded in mystery, adding fuel to the speculation about Anastasia's possible survival. It wasn't until 1991 that a mass grave near Yekaterinburg was discovered, revealing the remains of Tsar Nicholas II, his wife, and 3 of their daughters. These remains were finally laid to rest in the Peter and Paul Fortress in 1998. Further discoveries in 2007 identified the remains of Alexei and the 4th daughter, confirming that all the Romanov children had perished in 1918. Despite scientific evidence, the myth of Anastasia's escape captivated imaginations worldwide. Numerous imposters emerged, including Anna Anderson, whose claims were debunked through DNA testing in 1994. Anastasia's life and tragic end remain symbolic of the fall of the Romanov dynasty, a poignant chapter in Russian history marked by intrigue, myth, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Grand Duchess Anastasia Nikolaevna was born on June 18, 1901, into a world of immense expectation and regal splendour. As the 4th daughter, her arrival was met with disappointment from her family, who had fervently hoped for a male heir. The Tsar, visibly affected by the news, took a long walk to gather his thoughts before meeting his newborn daughter. Comments from family members echoed this sentiment. Her aunt, Grand Duchess Zina, lamented, "My God, what a disappointment, a 4th girl." And her cousin, Grand Duke Constantine, confessed, "Forgive us, Lord, if we all felt disappointment instead of joy." Despite this initial reaction, Anastasia was named after the 4th century martyr Saint Anastasia, a name meaning of the resurrection in Greek, a poignant detail that would later fuel myths about her rumoured survival. Anastasia's upbringing, though royal, was surprisingly austere. The Tsar's children were raised to endure a simple lifestyle: hard camp beds, cold baths, and chores like tidying their rooms and needlework for charity. This approach aimed to instill resilience and humility. In the household, Anastasia was mainly referred to by her first name and patronymic, Anastasia Nikolaevna, or affectionate nicknames like Anastasia, Nastya, Nastenka, and Malenkaya, meaning little one. Anastasia shared a close bond with her older sister Maria. The pair is often called the Little Pair. They shared a room, dressed alike, and spent much time together. Their older sisters Olga and Tatiana formed the Big Pair. Together, the 4 sisters often signed letters with the acronym OTMAR, derived from the first letters of their names. In 2009, DNA testing confirmed that Anastasia's younger brother Alexei suffered from haemophilia B, a rare bleeding disorder. Anastasia and her sister Maria were identified as potential carriers of the gene, underscoring their health's fragility despite their royal status. Had Anastasia survived to have children, the haemophilia gene could likely have been passed on, affecting future generations. Anastasia's early life, marked by royal duties, familial bonds, and the looming shadows of political upheaval, paints a vivid picture of a young girl caught between the grandeur of her birthright and the harsh realities of her era. Anastasia was a captivating figure with blue eyes and blonde hair. Her mother's lady-in-waiting, Baroness Sophie Buxhovden, noted her finely cut features and impish laughter that sparkled in her eyes. Despite her short stature and youthful chubbiness, Anastasia's looks were striking and she bore a strong resemblance to her mother. Anastasia's personality was as vivid as her appearance. She was a bundle of energy and vivacity, often leaving a lasting impression on those around her. Margarita Eger, a governess to the Grand Duchesses, remarked on her extraordinary personal charm even as a toddler. Gifted and bright, Anastasia had little patience for the confines of a classroom, much to the annoyance of her tutors, Pierre Gilliard and Sidney Gibbs. Her mischievous nature and sharp wit made her a joy and a challenge to her caregivers. Her lively spirit often led to daring and naughty acts. Known for her pranks, Anastasia once tripped servants and even threw a rock-filled snowball at her sister, Tatiana, during a snowball fight. Her cousin, Princess Nina Georgievna, remembered her as fiercely competitive and sometimes nasty to the point of being evil, but always entertaining with her sharp remarks and antics. Anastasia was less concerned with appearances than her sisters. She famously ate chocolates at the opera without removing her gloves, much to the shock of onlookers. Despite her robust energy, she was not without health issues. She suffered from painful bunions and a weak back muscle, requiring twice weekly massages, which she would try to avoid by hiding. The Grand Duchess's life, filled with laughter, mischief and the occasional misstep, painted a picture of a young girl full of life and spirit, navigating the complexities of her royal heritage and the tumultuous world around her. Anastasia's relationship with Grigory Rasputin was a complex and controversial chapter in her life. Rasputin, a wandering holy man from humble beginnings, became a trusted advisor to her mother, Tsarina Alexandra, who believed his prayers and had saved the life of her haemophiliac son, Alexei. To Anastasia and her siblings, Rasputin was known as our friend, a figure of comfort and spiritual guidance. In 1907, Anastasia's aunt, the Grand Duchess Olga Alexandrovna, visited the nursery and found the children, including Anastasia, in their long white nightgowns, entirely at ease with Rasputin. The children's comfort around him was evident in his affectionate messages. In one telegram, Rasputin encouraged them to love the whole of God's nature, reflecting his role as a spiritual mentor. However, Rasputin's close relationship with the imperial children raised eyebrows. In 1910, Sofia Tacheva, one of the girls' governesses, was appalled to find Rasputin in the nursery while the girls were in their nightgowns and demanded his exclusion. The children, aware of the tension, feared their mother's reaction. Anastasia's sister Tatiana expressed her concern in a letter to their mother, hoping their governess would be kinder to Rasputin. Tacheva was eventually dismissed, but her revelation stirred scandal within the family. She reported to Grand Duchess Zina that Rasputin spoke with the girls while they prepared for bed, often hugging them. Zina could not fathom why Alexandra and the children revered Rasputin, whom she saw as a sinister figure. Further allegations arose when another governess, Maria Vishnakova, claimed Rasputin had assaulted her. Alexandra dismissed the claim, viewing Rasputin's actions as holy. Vishnakova was also removed from her post, and despite the lack of evidence, rumours of Rasputin's impropriety with the Tsarina and her daughters persisted. These rumours were fueled by scandalous cartoons depicting Rasputin with the imperial family, leading to his temporary exile. Despite these controversies, Rasputin remained close to the Romanovs until his assassination in December 1916. The news of his death deeply affected the Grand Duchesses, who appeared visibly distressed. Anastasia and her sisters signed an icon for his burial and attended his funeral. But even in death, Rasputin's influence lingered. Amulets with his picture and prayer were found on Anastasia and her sisters after their tragic deaths. This intricate and often misunderstood relationship highlights the tension between faith and scandal in the final years of the Romanov dynasty, with Anastasia and her siblings caught in the middle of a maelstrom of devotion and controversy. During World War I, Grand Duchess Anastasia Nikolaevna, alongside her sister Maria, found solace in visiting wounded soldiers at a private hospital within the grounds of Sorkoy Selo. Too young to serve as Red Cross nurses like their mother and older sisters, the two teenagers dedicated themselves to lifting the spirits of the injured men by playing checkers and billiards. Felix Dassel, a soldier treated at the hospital, fondly remembered Anastasia's distinctive laugh and her quick, almost playful walk. In February 1917, as the Russian Revolution gained momentum, Anastasia and her family were placed under house arrest at the Alexander Palace. Following Tsar Nicholas II's abdication in March, the Bolsheviks moved them to Tobolsk in Siberia and later to the Ipatiev House in Yekaterinburg. The confinement took a heavy toll on the young Duchess and her family. In a poignant farewell to a friend in the winter of 1917, Anastasia wrote, "Goodbye, don't forget us." While in Tobolsk, Anastasia composed a melancholy essay for her English tutor about Evelyn Hope, a poem by Robert Browning, filled with spelling errors and reflecting her sombre mood. Her last sighting in Yekaterinburg was recalled by Pierre Gilliard, who saw her and her siblings carrying their belongings in the rain, struggling under the weight and the mud. Baroness Sophie Buxhovden's final glimpse of Anastasia was equally heartbreaking. From a distance she saw a hand and pink-sleeved arm at a window, a fleeting and silent farewell. Despite the hardships, Anastasia's spirit remained resilient. In the spring of 1918, she participated in household plays that brought laughter to her parents and those around them. Her tutor, Sidney Gibbs, recounted how Anastasia's performances made everyone howl with laughter. In a letter dated May 7, 1918 to her sister Maria, Anastasia described a rare moment of joy amidst their captivity, recounting a fall from a swing that made her laugh uncontrollably. This letter captured her ability to find light even in the darkest times. Some guards at the Ipatiev house remembered Anastasia as friendly and full of fun. Alexander Streketin noted her lively spirit and fondness for comic mimes with the dogs. Another guard, however, found her behaviour provocative, describing her as a charming devil and even a terrorist. During their captivity, Anastasia and her sisters helped with household chores such as darning stockings and assisting the cook. The hardships of their confinement deepened in the summer of 1918 as their conditions grew more restrictive. On July 14th, local priests conducted a private service for the family and noticed a dramatic change in their demeanour. The Grand Duchesses, who once sang during prayers, now appeared despondent. Despite these trials, Anastasia and her sisters managed to maintain a semblance of normality. On July 15th, just days before their tragic end, they joked and helped clean their quarters, even sticking their tongues out at the guards when they weren't looking, a final act of defiance from the spirited young Duchess. The supposed escape and survival of Grand Duchess Anastasia Nikolaevna remains one of the most intriguing mysteries of the 20th century, inspiring numerous books and films. Throughout the years, at least 10 women claimed to be Anastasia, each with their own story of survival. The most famous of these claimants was Anna Anderson, who emerged between 1920 and 1922. Anderson claimed she had feigned death among her family's bodies and escaped with the help of a sympathetic guard. Anderson's quest for recognition sparked a lengthy legal battle from 1938 to 1970, becoming the longest-running case in German court history. Ultimately, the court ruled that Anderson had not provided sufficient proof of her royal identity. After she died in 1984, DNA tests conducted in 1994 confirmed that Anderson was not related to the Romanovs, but was instead matched with a missing Polish factory worker named Franziska Szankowska. Other lesser-known claimants such as Nazheda Vassilieva and Eugenia Smith also emerged. Two women claiming to be Anastasia and her sister Maria lived as nuns in the Ural Mountains until they died in 1964. They were buried under the names of Anastasia and Maria Nikolaevna, further fueling the myth of Anastasia's survival. Rumours and reports of Anastasia's survival circulated widely during the tumultuous Russian Revolution. Stories of searches by Bolshevik soldiers and secret police for Anastasia Romanov added to the intrigue. In one instance, Princess Helena Petrovna, a distant cousin, was visited in her cell by a girl claiming to be Anastasia. However, this and other similar reports were later discredited as misinformation. Eyewitness accounts from PM described the capture of a young woman believed to be Anastasia in September 1918. Witnesses, including a physician named Dr. Pavel Utkin, identified the girl and reported her claim. "I am the daughter of the ruler, Anastasia." But despite these reports, the evidence was insufficient to prove her identity. Several individuals posed as Romanov escapees during this period, exploiting the uncertainty and chaos. Boris Solovyev, husband of Rasputin's daughter Maria, defrauded families by convincing them to finance the escape of Romanov imposters. Speculation persisted about the possibility of a guard rescuing a survivor, particularly given the chaotic aftermath of the murders. Yakov Yurovsky, who oversaw the execution, demanded the return of stolen items from the guards, indicating a lapse in security that might have allowed for a rescue. However, these theories remain speculative. The fascination with Anastasia's fate endured long after the revolution, a testament to the mystery and tragedy surrounding the Romanov family. Despite the definitive DNA evidence, the legend of Anastasia's possible escape continues to captivate imaginations worldwide. In 1991, the presumed burial site of the Romanov family was unearthed in the woods outside Yekaterinburg. The discovery, made nearly a decade earlier, had been concealed by those who found it to protect it from the ruling communist authorities. The grave contained 9 sets of remains instead of the expected 11. DNA and skeletal analysis identified Tsar Nicholas II, Tsarina Alexandra, and 3 of the 4 Grand Duchesses, Olga, Tatiana, and presumably Maria. The other remains belonged to their loyal servants, including the family doctor Yevgeny Botkin, valet Alexei Trub, cook Ivan Korisanov, and maid Anna Demidova. The remains of the Tsarevich Alexei and one of his sisters, Anastasia or Maria, were absent. American scientists relying on skeletal maturity believed the missing body to be Anastasia, noting the absence of markers like an immature collarbone and undescended wisdom teeth expected in a 17-year-old. In 1998, when the remains were finally interred, one body was buried under Anastasia's name, despite evidence suggesting she was several inches shorter than the remains indicated. Her mother had commented on Anastasia's short stature just months before the family's murder. The Yurovsky note, a document written by the Bolshevik leader who oversaw the execution, mentioned that 2 bodies had been removed from the central grave and cremated to disguise the total count. It led to years of fruitless searches for the missing cremation site. Then, in August 2007, a breakthrough came when a Russian archaeologist discovered 2 burned partial skeletons at a bonfire site near Yekaterinburg, matching the description in Yurovsky's memoirs. The remains were of a boy aged 12 to 15 and a young woman aged 15 to 19. Anastasia was 17 at the time of her death, her brother Alexei was almost 14, and her sister Maria was 19. The site yielded more than bones. Archaeologists found remnants of a container of sulfuric acid, nails, metal strips, and bullets, all consistent with the efforts to obliterate the bodies. DNA tests conducted by international laboratories included the Armed Forces DNA Identification Laboratory and Innsbruck Medical University, confirmed that the remains belonged to Alexei and one of his sisters. It conclusively proved that the entire Romanov family, including Anastasia, perished in 1918. Despite the definitive DNA evidence, a debate remains over which daughter's body was recovered from the second grave. Whether it was Maria or Anastasia, the tragic fate of the Romanov family had been confirmed, bringing a somber closure to one of history's most enduring mysteries. If you loved our video into the life of Grand Duchess Anastasia, you won't want to miss this next one. Click on the screen now to explore the untold stories and hidden secrets of another fascinating Romanov sister. Get ready to uncover more historical gems and intriguing royal tales. Your next adventure in history starts right here.